Ok, let's go. Pozdrav, dragi moji ljudi. Kao što sam vam najavila, večeras imamo specijalnog gosta, tako da ćemo pričati na engleskom jeziku, nećemo pričati na našem jeziku. To je jedna osoba koja je meni lično onako inspiracija i jako onako vetar veliki u leđa. I uvek volim da ga nazovem da je moj mentor. Tako da idemo svi koji nas pratite na Facebooku da stavite u komentaru 777 ako se dobro čujemo, ako se dobro vidimo i ako je sve tako kako treba da bude. Let me see if we have my guest is here. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go. My mentor, Quincey, are you here? Are you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. I can hear you clearly.
Open your video.
Yes. Can you hear me? I'm trying to get my video.
Yes, I hear you.
Amazing. Give me 1 second. Let me try to fix my.
It's okay, no problem. It's your first time in being in Facebook Live. I understand.
Yes. Let me try to move it over here, see if this works.
Okay. Idemo ekipa, ako nas fino vidite i dobro čujete, idemo svi u komentaru 111, da bih znala da je sve ok. Mi krećemo, samo da nam se gost namesti da vidi da je sve ok. I let's be started.
Okay, we're now working. We're all working better.
Yes. You hear me, everything? You probably don't understand me, but I speak in Serbian,
yes,
but everything is okay. Thank you so much for having you here. I'm so happy and grateful for that. Please tell me, what is your story? How you come in the IM? How is going everything?
Yes. So back in 2017, I actually was going to college. I was playing full-time football. And I was a student athlete, just went to college, you know, to, you know, really kind of provide myself with, you know, the classical story of, you know, go ahead, get a good, you know, get a good education. After they get a good education, get a good degree. From the good degree, you know, I was going to go ahead and, you know, soon be able to take care of myself some way, somehow financially from that route. And then, you know, in 2017, as I was going back for that spring semester, it was a fall semester going into the spring. One of my good friends that is a chairman 25 here on this platform today. He kind of introduced it to me in a non-indirect way. And how he kind of showed me it was like a fishing net. You know, I was pretty caught. I was definitely a fish that was pretty caught because he showed me the power of him making money through conversation. And I say that because he wasn't really making money through the conversation he was having with me, but he was making money while he had the conversation with me. And it showed me like the power. I was like, wow, for him to know the language of a skill, but also know the language to communicate towards me, you know, my reality kind of changed because what I was doing in the beginning wasn't really comparing up to what I was seeing as a new reality, you know, as a new way of producing money. I was seeing one way where it was traditional education to potentially try to make what I've been able to go out there and do in my career so far. But, you know, just the knowledge of understanding that, you know, there's so much information that, you know, we don't know as a community. And as a community, I mean, you know, just we as people, we only know one way towards the financial education. And most of our ways is, you know, working for money. And I never really knew the second way of making money on earth. And I didn't really pick that up until I kind of got a part of this platform that, you know, kind of allowed me to figure out not just, you know, how money works, but the power that money only works in two ways. You either work for it or have it work for you. You can't really do anything else besides that to actually create money. And, you know, this industry showed me a lot.
Yes. Maybe you don't know, but you are my inspiration. When I see your trainings, I will always say, wow, wow, amazing. I wanted to be like you. You are you have so powerful mindset. Tell my people how is going everything, how you come like a beast in your work, in mindset.
I appreciate it. I actually had this question before. When it really came to when it really kind of came to mindset, you know, when it came to me developing where it is that I see myself, kind of building towards, but because I feel my greatest struggle always has been, you know, the difference between what is here and what can be created, you know. And a lot of us here, we struggle with two things. The first thing we struggle with is honestly the battle within our, you know, within ourselves. But then the next thing as we struggle with as a community is we actually start to struggle, you know, the battle with the world. And see, the battle with the world, I learned this throughout, you know, my whole journey throughout my whole entrepreneurial career, is that, you know, the battle with the world is something you can't control. You know, you can't really control, you know, what family you were actually born in. You know, you can't really control how your parents raised you. You can't really control the information that was downloaded in the beginning before you became more aware. And more aware of your situation, whether it's who's been coaching you, what it is that you know, or more aware when I look at it as this, you know, me, um, you know, as a minority, you know, really growing up, I have watched my family all have two things. The first thing they always had was, you know, an hustle, which was really good. And then I also understood that my family had, you know, lack of education. And you know what I noticed is that when you have a hustle, when you have like this grit, this grind, and you're someone that's just you're just in a working field, and you have the hustle, but you have lack of education, you're almost in a hamster wheel now. And as you start to have this lack of education, but you have a great work ethic, you're actually not even working towards a bigger purpose. You're working towards someone else. And that's something I started to learn on an early on age, that I just try to bring awareness to a lot of people out there that can possibly affect, especially throughout, my career that started about, I could say it started when I was born, but I became aware of it 4 years ago.
Wow, amazing, amazing. Tell me, you are P5, yeah? And you're
Yes.
going to chairman, but you are
Yes.
for me chairman. But tell me, how is everything started? How you started to going in network business? Because you're an amazing trader. You're amazing trader, and I want to explain my people how it's going to be a great trader and great beast in the networking.
Yes. Yeah. When I look at the difference between the two, um, there's two things. When it came to building my business, one thing is I really learned that I had to actually change, my character. But when it came to the skill set, I had to change my habits. Um, and a lot of people can do this. A lot of people can go out there and do what it is that we do what it is that we kind of all have power to. But there's just two things. They have to be honestly. There's just one thing. You have to be willing to change. You know, as human beings, I feel it's at an age of about 18 where we stop really learning.
Mhm.
And from the age of 18 throughout your whole life, as you stop really learning, you start to no longer progress in a life that is worth growing towards. And building a business, or honestly going out there and investing and learning about money, you have to really focus on, the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is your influence. And I started to really understand that my influence had to be able to influence people. And leadership is actually the highest paid profession in the world, which people don't know. Everybody leads somebody to some type of information, but the number one thing that I start to come across is people don't know their influence either by someone or they're influencing someone. And if you could understand, and this is from my perspective, if you can understand what you're influencing, or what's the whole projection of what you want to influence, especially what country are we streaming in right now?
Serbia.
Serbia.
Yes.
This is insane. I would have never
You
imagined.
must come in Serbia. You promised
Yes.
to me.
Oh yeah, I definitely will be coming out to Serbia. I definitely will be coming out. I'll be definitely talking out to John and Tilla and Blas for sure. And I noticed that, John C. Maxwell is one of the greatest coach, when it comes on leadership, great books, audios that I listen to today, and books I could definitely recommend. But I just understood that, in order to build a business, or build any type of thing, just anything out there, anything you're actually starting, is that you need to build from the right foundation. And if you want a life that's worth living, yes, you have to sacrifice. But you also have to be willing to be submissive to the right information. You're gonna come across the wrong information. We've done that as human beings, that as we grow, we have to watch and we program, and then we produce what we just seen.
Yes.
You know, and as we're learning about life, as it continues to grow, whatever success is for you, and everybody out here watching, is that success is more like this, because I can't really say I have reached successful moments, but I can never really say I'm a successful person right now. There's so much that really needs to get done, in my sort of setting. And what it is that I see here that I can, influence here on earth. I mean, it kind of ties right back to business. It ties back to influence. It ties back to leadership. That if you can see something so far from where you're currently at today, and I know this makes sense because it's always like I'm able to borrow from the future. And I heard great of my mentors kind of speak on that. And when you start to tap into, the foundation, your foundation is actually your spiritual five senses.
Yeah.
And I understand that my foundation to build something could be the physical senses. It could be what I'm doing physically, like the people, like the work, like the presentations and the connections and the network and the money I invest. That can be the foundation. But I understood that really building anything, it has to be built on the right foundation. And that right foundation, it has to be able to be felt through something deeper that a human brain cannot function the way the blessings could possibly pour in. And to be able to influence on that type of level, I noticed that I had to tap into a higher level, the recognition, the money, the respect. It's just all a reflection by a byproduct for delayed gratification. It's just a reflection of delayed gratification. And if you can, if we can cope our brain to understanding that we don't know that what we don't know, and we have to program, new information on a day-to-day basis in order to grow to a life that's worth growing to, then you'll start to kind of progress towards a goal. And it doesn't make sense to a lot of people. It didn't make sense to me. Sometimes it still doesn't make sense. And, oftentimes I look at where I was to where I am, where, and if you look at where you were to where you are today, there's so much growth and development that's already been there. The difference between everything is going to be, are you aware for what's to come? That's how, large, I started to notice that, influence can really possibly, we expanded all the way out to Serbia. I can't even believe this, before my eyes. We're here on Facebook Live. We're actually on IG Live too as well.
Yes,
Zoom.
You must use it, Facebook, because I have too many people come in my business is for the Facebook. Only
Yes,
Facebook. I use it only Facebook. Facebook for me, it's amazing. Okay, I have too many personal customers. I recruiting beast, okay, in Serbia, but how is going duplication? I don't know how is duplication. How duplicate me? I don't know how. Please explain me how you going to duplication your business.
Yeah.
Your leaders.
So I'm currently still a student to this information of duplication. But I have became aware of some information that came across that, in order for me to really go out there and I look at duplicating as a process more than an accomplishment. Mm-hmm. And if I can focus on, it ties right back into what I'm currently studying today, your influence, there's like 5 levels. Let me get into this. There's 5 levels.
Okay. I must write. Wait a minute. Minute. Okay, you can. I
know everybody here is watching, but you your influence will pay you a fortune. And it's a journey that, you know, we must have to be willing to go down, you know, because your influence is not going to change overnight. It takes years to build. It takes years to build influence in 5 seconds to actually break it. So, you know, purpose leadership is your influence. You know, I teach this, you know, all around the world for this one reason, because you have to understand that, you know, your purpose, you know, when I finally discovered my purpose, when I finally discovered, you know, to uncover something that was already there. That's what the discover means, to already uncover, you know, an influence of me being myself. Because I can't duplicate another me. I can't make another me. I wouldn't be able to go out there and produce. Like, even if I have a children, there wouldn't be another me. There would be a symbol of me. There would be the part of me. So even when it comes to your influence, even when it comes to you personally want to go out there and honestly be the biggest artist, I feel this when it comes out to you want to be, you know, the biggest network marketer, the biggest trader, the biggest, you know, anything rising. I'm speaking from a rising perspective, not from the top perspective. You know, I feel me as a career right now, I'm in a much rising career, more of a rising than on top career. And I'm allowing all information to be drawn from the future. So purpose, leadership, influence, you know, there's literally 5 things. You know, the first one, you have to honestly value people. You know, it took me a while to really understand that, you know, valuing people, you're actually going to go out there and you're going to have the care, you know, for others, you know, to understand that for me to gain my influence and even, you know, to be here on a call with you guys, you know, all the way out and all the way in Serbia, it's, you know, and I have seen, you know, hundreds of messages from people out in Europe, hundreds of messages from people out in Hawaii, hundreds of messages from people out on the West Coast. And I started to notice that my influence came from step number 1. You know, I had to value people, you know, really kind of be there for people. People like people that value them. You know, you go where you're celebrated, not really where you're tolerated. And your influence can honestly draw someone's attention and, you know, where it is that you personally want to be. You know, where is it you personally want to be? What is it you're personally trying to accomplish? You know, and, you know, I kind of look at 2. You know, when I look at 2, it kind of deals with, you know, motivation more than manipulation. You know, motivation more than manipulation. And this is anything that you want to personally build in the world. And I look at businesses and what it is that businesses are doing and how it is that a team could do great when it comes to their business, or whether it's you know, someone new that wants to start a design, someone new that wants to start, you know, their career. You know, every day you have to think. This is key, especially if you're building, if you're like a newbie, or maybe you personally already been doing it for a while, but every day you should be finding ways to add value to people. Every day you have to find ways to add value to people. You know how, you know, you have to look at your life right now as perspective, because how we view things is how we do things. And how you look at your life personally today is honestly key. It's honestly, you know, the most key thing that you have to kind of put in perspective. And number 3, you have to understand that in order to influence, your influence is coming by word. So which means you're personally sowing, you know, you're sowing the word of what it is that's going to pay you forth later. And, you know, you have to understand this in number 3, that the sowing, it's not transactional. You have to do it out of the kindness of your heart. You have to do it out of the kindness of the respect that you want to leave behind. And, you know, the word it's so crazy because the word for me kind of goes back into a study of God. And in order to have that study of God, for him to do a transaction, for him to do a change with no transaction is the greatest gift of all time. For him to already go out there and show a symbol for not being able to charge you, is a sowing within itself. And the promise, I understood, throughout my spiritual journey, the promise of whoever it is that an individual believes in, as long as they believe in something higher, is that you must be willing to sow with no transaction. You must be willing to sow with no transaction. And that's going to gain your leadership, because certain things are going to grow. I don't judge my, I heard it before, is that I don't really judge my success by how many seeds were actually planted in the garden, but how many actually harvest. And that just kind of goes throughout the message of that, if you're sowing, as much as you personally want to go out there and sow, you're not going to really remember what happened 5 months ago of what you sowed. You're not going to really know what happened, a year ago, especially, if you're someone that's been involved with just trying to go out there and build something for yourself, is that you're not going to really remember all the seeds that were sowed, but you will have a reflection, and you will find joy in the ones that harvest. And you could plant over 1,000 seeds throughout your whole journey, but just 100 seeds that harvest actually shows up, and it shows you what type of influence has been grown throughout the years. It shows you get that physical transaction. But all seeds can't be a transaction. All seeds can't be a physical transaction. It has to be something that's really you're willing to be in alignment with. You got to be in alignment with. So number four. Every day you have to add value to people now. Number one was, you have to value people. Number two was, let me make sure I have this right, is you have to think of ways to add value to people. Number three is you have to sow. You have to sow what it is that you're trying to become, what you're trying to, as reaching a level of influence to not just a person and not just a crowd, but to reach something so far where there is no transaction from how many lives that you actually change, how many people you actually influence. Mm-hmm. And I think that is so bizarre to have your influence reach that far, that when it once weren't a transaction to you, the transaction kind of blesses you. And it's when you're not looking for transactions that transactions actually happen. And I realized that. I realized that your career kind of changes by, number four, every day add value to people. Before I came to this call, I was figuring out ways I can add value to you. And what it allowed me to do is, in the beginning, it starts with my number one. I must have to value. I have to value the person I'm speaking to. I have to be willing to give my time. I have to be willing to give what I possibly know. I have to be willing to think, to use the qualities that a leader is put in position in. And I think the start of just anybody's leadership, we're going to get into this later, but it starts from the beginning. The leadership doesn't really start at the end. It kind of starts at the beginning. And we'll get into that in a minute. But number 5 is honestly the leadership role. As I have watched, what my mentors done. I have watched, what successful people have been doing. And number 5 is something I'm personally building towards. I'm building up. And number 5 is encouraging people, to add value to people.
Wow.
Because what starts to happen is the duplication process. And what is now being reproduced in my business is not something that was done, but something that was done inside. And for me, it's crazy. I got this revelation that changed my whole life, as a business person, as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, as someone that can go out there and and I look at it as I don't actually want the money. Sometimes, of course, I want the money for the reasons, but I don't want the money for the wrong reasons. Because you cannot give what you do not have. So you can't really influence someone if you have nothing to influence them on. And when you look at your success from where you are today to where it is you want to go, is that success worth changing for? Is that success worth growing for? That number, that amount of money, that home, that amount of, lives that have been changed. Then you got to really look at it, the amount of failure. We don't really talk about failure a lot, but the amount of tests that's happening towards an average an average individual. I go through the life tests, on a yearly basis. And just like anybody else out there, I noticed one thing, that kind of stuck out to me this year. And this year was, my character has been tested. Are you willing to remain the same? Or are you willing to kind of be changed? But change for the good, change to where it should increase, my faith within myself. But the test is the faith within something higher. The physical change is the faith within myself, for our reasons where we are currently today and what we want to help people do on a journey basis. But the test that actually comes to us is what do you actually believe in? Yes. What is it that is actually getting you off track emotionally?
Yes.
And I've been tested with that. Yeah.
Amazing. I must learn you to speak to Serbian because I don't speak really good English. That you must know. I don't know.
Yeah, I appreciate
but
it.
When I speak with you, I speak like I know English, but I don't know anything to say in the English. But I wanted to ask you, what is most important with you learn trading? Too many people when learn trading, we blow my account. And what is your device for that?
For trading, it takes time. It takes time. I'm running off of like 3 hours of sleep right now. I'm still up from yesterday. If that makes
I
sense.
see, I see, I see you.
Yeah,
You're
I do this quite often. I'm still in charge of my health, you know, so I'm still aware. So you know, I would make up days where I sleep in. Usually on a Saturday or Sunday, you know, I'm getting about more than 12 hours, you know, about 12 hours of sleep. Because I'm just resetting my whole body. Because usually I do about, you know, 6 hours, you know, and I just do naps. And then I run a business, so it's like trading. trading is trading is an actual job. You know, it is a job. It's just a job that allows you to multiply money a lot faster. You know, and if you can understand the skill, you know, take time. And we have it broken down in multiple languages. Obviously, I teach it. I know you guys are possibly are not awake. Maybe, you know, maybe it might be the morning time. Actually, I think about it, but 9 p.m.
yes,
My
I'm
time.
always in your session.
Okay, yeah, so 9 p.m. my time. You know, I do go over I do go over the trading. You know, just of what I learned from the platform. You know, and I, as again, you know, influence. I'd rather get back, you know, something that I learned over the course of years that I don't really do the calls for trading to just do it. You know, it ended up becoming a discipline to just run the training, and then it became like a want. You know, and it talks about this. It talks about this in the Bible for say is that, you know, a discipline turns into a desire, and that's when you start, you know, not only speaking what you want to do, but you start living through what you want to do. And I think about it like this: you can develop the skills of trading. You got to be willing to develop them. You know, if that it kind of it's contradicting. Contradicting means you know, it's one thing you're saying, but it's another thing to do. Um, but yeah, I believe not everybody's going to be successful with trading because not everybody thinks the same. You know, not everybody thinks the way someone that's doing great trading. They don't think that way. And I had to change the way I think for me to even win because for my whole life, you got to look at this, your whole entire life, depending who your first mentors were, meaning your guardians, your parents, depending who they were, you're trying to relearn something that's never been taught for years and be super successful in a year and 2 years. I, and it happens, you know, you can be successful, but most of the programming is done in the mind before it's done in the skill. I know people that are that can that know how to trade and make this amount of money. And then I know people that are, you know, honestly dumb as a doorknob, you know, that are not the brightest, you know, light bulb, you know, in the room. And I don't mean this more so towards, you know, their education and them not going to college and them not going to high school or something like that. I mean more literal. Like I just had a conversation with some of them and I'm like, I don't know how he's actually successful, but his belief with, you know, within themselves, their belief to know, like, if I just keep doing this, if I just keep working, if I just keep learning, it's gonna pay off. It's gonna win. Like I know individuals that are not as smart as a person that were getting, you know, that, you know, for me, I was a D student. I was a D student, D and C student. You know, my highest grade was an A and I was gym class. Um, and I wasn't really good book smart. I always felt I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't dumb, but I couldn't remember information. I just couldn't. I don't know what it was. I just couldn't remember information. So I thought trading was going to be hard because my grades say one thing, and this is information. I got to learn how to make money from a phone. That already sounds like information that I did not know, compared to trying to study out of a textbook. Making money from your phone is completely different. Yeah. That's a different type of information that's downloaded. And it's so uncommon to hear something like that. Not now in the day we live in now, due to social media. But in the beginning of 2017, a lot, this is before, COVID, and what it's kind of done, to the world. And I just remember, this is when people used to socialize in public, those times. So those were the times where people used to socialize. Yeah, that was the time, where people didn't really talk to one another about, personal finances. And I think now, and I was trying to tell a lot of people about trading back in 2017. I wasn't really, I was in the platform, but I wasn't building, my business until, a year later. But I just remember me telling myself that this is gonna work. You know, I'm gonna learn how to make money from my phone. And that first year, I just remember reaching the highest income, reaching what I used to make in a year at my job, doing it in a month, you know, ended up being in a week, one period of time. And I remember that at first I didn't know this months ago, you know, I didn't know how to do that. And then I look at today, today, um, today was a great day. As again, I'm still up from yesterday. So I mean, my whole day has been continuation from yesterday's point on. But today, for me to still be able to do what I currently started to learn and focus on from 2017 has been one of the greatest investments in my entire life.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, last question, and you can go into sleep. I think how time is now in the
It's 3 in the afternoon.
Okay, you don't can sleep. You
Yeah,
must work it.
I'm still up from yesterday. I'm still up from 3 yesterday.
Oh my God. Okay, I don't sleep neither, but it's okay. Everything. Tell me what book we can write books. 2 books for you. Who is
Two
the
books.
best?
Let's see, I have it
Yes,
right here.
2 books the best. Device audio. Okay.
This is called The Voice of Knowledge.
The voice of knowledge.
The Voice of Knowledge. Uh, I recommend that book. I actually recommended it to John, my personal coach. He read that book. He loved it. He thought it was one of the most, personally developed books that he learned from. Since we had that conversation. Um, and what it did is it solely changed my perspective on where do I gain knowledge, you know, and that's key because we can't think all information is knowledge. And knowledge has 2 things to it. It has a positive effect and it has a negative effect. Depending if you're aware enough to understand the knowledge that you're gaining, that book will allow you to, I'm going to go and read it again because there's a lot that I wasn't aware of before that I'm aware of now. So that's one book, The Voice of the Knowledge. Kind of speaks for itself. The voice, of the knowledge. When's the last time you ever think of the voice? You don't really hear the voice of a knowledge. You just hear voices. Or sometimes you're reading and you're listening to your own voice. And that's what the voice of the knowledge is, to identify what knowledge is. It's crazy. And the second book is, I have it over here too as well, The Alchemist. Journey. It's called The Alchemist. That goes over your journey. Your journey. And The Alchemist, it's a book that basically speaks on turning, coals, rocks into gold, into diamond, into liquid. It's alchemy to turn a bad situation into a good situation. I'll leave you off on this. I just had an event that I actually put together, here in my hometown before I go on tour in February. And the day of the event, the venue canceled. The venue canceled. I had Mike Sotero fly out, Chairman 25, DCX educator out, John Guaman fly out, Chairman 100, within our organization, an amazing coach at the age of 25. Elias Montilla has flown out here, Chairman 25, personal friend, personal family member to me, and also coach. I had Chairman 10, Elisha Willock, on his way, from his town. And, over a sold out event, and over many people that were attending to come in that venue that was first personally having it canceled 2 hours before the event. And it's crazy because what I learned is the pressure that it left. The pressure that it left me in would have been my perspective of what the enemy could test me in. Mm-hmm. I got to write that down. But what I was doing is I put myself in a mindset that I won't usually act in. And what I mean by usually is what I was born on, what I was developed on, what I was taught on, what I'd done my whole life. And I watched my growth for how I handle something that is out of my control. And I kind of let go and let God. But I handle everything that I can personally touch, that I can personally have an effect on. So immediately within under 2 hours after strategizing whether I was going to cancel this event and everybody flew out, and I'll have to be able to refund everybody the tickets that we paid for the venue. I got the money back from the place, but I had to find a place. It wasn't really an option. It wasn't an option. And I don't know if you know this, but venue spots are hard. Yeah. Venue spots are hard to book the same time and the same day. You always need some type of warning before you do an event. That's how events work, and venues work. And I still have this mentality that it has to happen. And that mentality has been developed in me over months, I can say over years, that if I can handle myself in a moment like that, I can handle myself in a moment forever. How big the situation is or how small the situation is. The only thing that changes is the perspective on the situation and how much how much energy I give the perspective is how I handle the situation. Because I can honestly see something as it's out of control and I have no way of pulling this back in. But it all ties back down to my foundation and understanding, who I'm building it for. I have to influence people. I have to go out there and impact people. We already put everything together. And then really just coming to the last part is that, my discipline to say I'm going to do something and I'm going to do it. And I really don't, I barely, rarely, ever go back on my word when I say I'm going to do something. And I used to go back on my word before I got into business, before I gained, a career that was rising. And the character has changed. So the same situation that I went through this past weekend is in the same perspective of a situation I went through 5 years ago. But the character of how I see the situation and how I handle the situation has changed. So I think those come from the two books of where, Alchemist, you can turn a bad situation into a good situation. And the journey of where you're going to be at, you're not even going to really remember, whether people knew you did it in this location versus doing it in something, spectacular. So whether you did your first call or whether, you did your first training or you did your first event.
When I do it first, Facebook Live with Blush, I be a drunk. It's be amazing. It's be amazing. Facebook Live. Yeah. Too many people. It's coming in my business, but I be first my life. I be drunk. But okay, yeah. Everything okay.
No. First event. I remember I took some drinks with John and John and Till. I was like, they got me loose up because I had to get loose enough in order for me wanted to say what I want to say actually comes out, and I think we all can honestly, agree on, getting in a way of what we could do. Yeah. So the best way is to honestly, let, one of your most, do whatever you feel in your most confident. So whatever could get you the most confident and professional at the same time, do it, Yes. For me, it's a little bit different. Now I do like CBD. I don't know how the transition happened for me to be. I get it often that when I do speak, it's able to reach a lot of people, and I think I work on it. That's what it is.
Yes, when you do it at trainings, too many times I am in your trainings, and always I said, wow, this is amazing. This is amazing. This is amazing. You're so amazing. You're so amazing, and I wanted for you to be Chairman 10 for the end this month, and yes. I feel it that it's gonna be.
Yes, I know. That whatever is written is done, whatever is written is done. And it took me a while to know that, throughout your journey, you question it, but you don't question it, saying it out loud. In the back of your mind, it's like you're dealing with the trials, you're dealing with the tests, you're dealing with the success. That the question is when I'm there.
And when you're already there.
Exactly. And when you already question when you're there or when you're going to get there, it takes away your understanding that it's already done.
Yes, it's already done. I always listen David Demoniti, and I love it, David Demoniti, and so happy, grateful for David. And everything I heard him, I said, it's already done. It's already done. I'm billionaire. It's already done. Impact billion people. It's already done. I thank you so much for having you here. I'm so grateful for you, and I can't wait to meet you in live. Do you
Definitely.
come in Barcelona or not?
Yeah, I'm not going to be at Barcelona. I'm actually going to be at the David and Miti event.
Yes. Okay, you sent me a video for the David Immunity. I'm going in Barcelona and see you soon.
Definitely. I would definitely be out in Serbia. Thank you for everybody watching.
Always.
I appreciate you and I appreciate your time. And I thank you. You know, you have added value to my life for me to go out there and be able to speak all over, you know,
Yes.
coast
You
of
must
Europe.
come in Serbia. We're waiting for you in Belgrade.
Oh, we're gonna go ahead and raise the roof when we get out there in Serbia. We're gonna make sure we do
John coming in the January in Belgrade. You can come with him.
He's coming when?
Yeah. We have event. We have event in the January now, and you must come.
Okay, I'm gonna reach out to him. I'm gonna let him know.
Yes, you must know. You must come here. We're going in Serbia. We're going in Slovenia, in Crna Gora, Montenegro.
Okay. Yeah, I have a whole tour for February. So I'll check my schedule. If it fits, the whole flight schedule fits, I'll be more than willing. But if anything, if we can't get out there in January, I would definitely come back there with Elias and we could do another big event.
Yes.
But I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And going to sleep.
You have a nice one.
Bye.
Bye.
Ok, dragi ljudi, nadam se da ste uživali u ovom live-u kao i ja. Jako bitna stavka je ta da imamo uživo event u januaru mesecu, 25. januar u Beogradu, gde nam dolazi uživo naš dragi mentor Blaž i John, gde ćete imati svu priliku da ih upoznate i uživo i saznate mnogo više informacija šta je to što mi radimo, kako mi uopšte funkcionišemo. Ono što je jako bitno da kada ste deo ove same naše kompanije u koju smo sada mi trenutno, je da nije bitno koja ste boja kože, da nije bitno odakle dolazite, da nije bitno kojim jezikom pričate, nego je jako bitno da imate dobro srce, dobre misli i sve će biti onako kako treba da bude. Znači, sve što vam je potrebno je da pozovete osobu koja vas je pozvala da budete na ovom samom našem uživom live-u, da joj se obratite, da je pitate kako uopšte možete da započnete sa nama. I ono što je jako bitno je to da imamo sada fantastičnu promociju koju želim da svi iskoristite, ako niste još uvek krenuli sa nama, je ta da možete umesto $235 da platite akademiju, bilo to da je za kripto, bilo da je za forex, bilo da je za binarno, vi sada možete krenuti za samo $185, što je stvarno fantastično. Imate promociju, iskoristite je maksimalno, jer ako ste sada bili trenutno na ovom live-u i ako ste sve ovo čuli, to je znak da trebate biti ovde. Jer ja u životu verujem da slučajnosti ne postoje, nego da se sve dešava sa samim razlogom. Ako vam je ovaj Facebook live značio, pišite u komentaru, podelite sa svojim prijateljima, svi koji ste gledali uživo, pišite uživo, svi koji budete gledali snimak, pišite snimak. Jako sam sretna i zahvalna za svaku osobu koju imam u timu i za svaku osobu koja nam dolazi. I ono što sam rekla, Slovenija, Srbija, Crna Gora, radimo fantastične evente, radimo uživo, gde ćete moći sve uživo da vidite, da saznate i idemo do kraja godine 1 milion ljudi, pa kud puklo da puklo. Vidimo se uskoro, ćao!